Censorship in public schools. Do we need it? Is it important? The Bill of Rights states that all U.S. citizens have freedom of speech. Is this any different inside the walls of public schools?
Censorship is a prior restraint of somebody's speech. And the question is, can school boards and principals and teachers censor the activity of their students? The case that is still being litigated here in Indiana about a student who prepared a website at home which was critical of the personnel in his school. And it was decided by the courts that the student had a right to his position and to his website and what he said.
The purpose of schools and the reason they were legally put in place was to educate. So it is within their purview, within their right to go ahead and block some of that so they can get to their main purpose. Some sites are so negative that they keep kids from focusing on their schoolwork, and when it impedes their purpose, when it stops kids from the learning process, then it's within their rights to go ahead and block it, and it's not freedom of speech.
Okay. Generally, libertarians are against censorship in any form. Let the society censor it by making a choice to go to those sites, read those books, magazines, whatever. However, we're talking in some cases about protecting children, and you mentioned in public forums, such as public schools. Libertarians would take it back a step further and would say that parents should be choosing the schools they send their children to. And then parents are in charge of what that school allows the children to look at on the internet, in magazines, in anything published, whatever. And that solves that problem.
Schools are in a fairly unique place when it comes to the Constitution. I think there's been a lot of case law, and your teachers know this better than I, that says that schools have a right to control what's happening within their walls, and they have a right to sort of keep order in the schools. If there are certain images that students are looking at online that is a threat to the order of what's going on in the schools, whether they're pornographic images or violent images, then I believe that the schools, I think our courts have said the schools have a right to ban those kinds of things.
When I was about 18 or 19 years old, I was a student at the University of California at Riverside. And I belonged to a group, student group, that wanted to put on a program on American dissent, people who dissented, politically, economically. And it was called American Dissent, Far Left and Far Right. And we invited communists, far left, to give their perspective. And for the far right, there was a group that was much more active than it is now, called the John Birch Society. Okay, and we just wanted to hear different points of view as students. Well, what happened was the University of California let us hear only half the panel, the members of the John Birch Society, the far right. And because they said they banned communists from speaking or teaching at the University of California.
I have two kids, 12 and 14. I'm as concerned about them as anybody on the other side of this debate. I simply believe that I don't have to give up my children's First Amendment rights in order to secure their safety.
Rights as a student have been deprived. You are entitled to hear all points of view, and the university ban on communist speakers deprives you of your rights under the First Amendment, freedom of speech. The Nesbitt, as the dean, spoke for the whole university, saying, "We'll get rid of the ban. It's a terrible ban. We should not censor freedom of speech."
Should it be the parents' choice?
Here it becomes tricky. And it really comes down to the parents should have the choice of what school to send their children to?
I think that it is the job as a school. The federal government by law has said it, that when students come to a school, they act in what they call in loco parentis, so in lieu of the parents. So when students come to school, it is the school officials and the school's job to somewhat act as the parents. So as the parents of 1,800 students at Bloomington South or whatever, we need to be responsible for the content of the material that they can view, and that we give them access to viewing. So by controlling that, we are being responsible as a parent and to the students' parents.
In the blocking programs, some of the good sites are blocked as well. What should we do?
There are too many examples already of filtering devices that screen out educational material and controversial political speech, including discussions of censorship, and rating systems that are clumsy and inaccurate. Parents are entitled to know the full limitations of these approaches.
Well, I think that can be decided on a case-by-case basis. The instructor who's giving you the assignment, you can go to that individual, you can go to that teacher and say, well, I would really like to use this site. Here's what I need it for. I can get this information off this site. I think on a case-by-case, that could be settled.
Because there are so many negative sites out there, it would be close to impossible for a principal ever to find them all and to block them. So they can do the reverse. You can have a major block, and then you can unblock certain other sites, because sometimes some good things get blocked out, and you can reverse it then so those sites can go through.
What would happen if the restrictions were removed?
I think the majority of the students would probably still use computers as they do today as a tool to do their work.
I think it'd be a disaster. I think the kids would be learning to build bombs and sharing pornography amongst themselves. Of course, they can do that in the evenings at home. They're on their home computers, but then I expect mom and dad to be regulating that.
I think that it's very possible that there would be less learning going on if there were certain websites that students were gravitating toward, and I think that there are lots of images that are disturbing images, that are sexist images, that are as I said before, pornographic images, violent images, that if those were being viewed 2 hours a day by students, that could take 2 hours a day away from studying about something.
As technology advances, schools will have to make a lot of decisions on what is freedom of information and what is too inappropriate for school.